evening. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Newport News School Board for Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. On behalf of the members of the board and the superintendent, I welcome each of you present and watching. A quorum is present to transact the business of the school division. The COVID-19 pandemic and now the Omicron variant continue to affect how we conduct business. Personal barriers are installed between members of the board, and our staff and visitors are masked and socially distanced in the auditorium and in our overflow areas. We are taking these steps to ensure the health and well-being of our staff and the public. We value and appreciate your partnership. We will begin tonight's meeting with an invocation and pledge to the flag. Here to do the honors are two students from Ella Fitzgerald Middle School, Carmine McDaniel and Barbara Ortiz Rodriguez. First, Carmine, will you please come forward and deliver the invocation?
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Parker. My name is Carmine McDaniel. I'm an 8th grade honor roll student at Ella Fitzgerald Middle School. I am a member of the Woodside High School football and wrestling teams. I would like to share with you a poem entitled Dreams by Langston Hughes. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, he'll be followed by Barbara, who will come forward and deliver the pledge.
Good evening, members of the school board and Dr. Parker. My name is Barbara Ortiz Rodriguez. I'm a 7th grade honor roll student and volleyball team manager at Ella Fitzgerald Middle School. And I'd like to draw in my spare time. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to a republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You all did a wonderful job. Supporting Carmine and Barbara tonight are their family members and school family. We'd like to ask you to please stand now and be recognized. The board appreciates the encouragement you've given these students, and we thank you for bringing them to tonight's meeting. The next item on tonight's agenda are school board recognitions. Dr. Parker, do we have some recognitions tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Leading our recognitions will be Mrs. Price.
Good evening. On behalf of the school board and superintendent, I have the pleasure of presenting this month's recognition. Last week was Virginia School Appreciation Week. We acknowledge the dedicated work of our school principals, and tonight we continue that recognition. Each day, our school administrators engage our students, families, and staff to ensure that all students receive high-quality instruction that prepares them to graduate college, career, and citizen ready. This is important heart work that has been made even more important during COVID. So this evening, we salute and thank our principals for their commitment to our students' academic and social development. Please join me in acknowledging our early childhood principals, and you can see all of our principals' images here. Please join me in acknowledging our early childhood principals, Lauren Gray, Vanessa Keller, and Sue Waxman. And our elementary school principals, Tara Harris, Diane Willis, Aurea Robinson Taylor, Mary Jo Anastasia, Christine Pilger, Travis Humble, Elizabeth Galbraith, Kamisha Davis, Brian Lieberman, Troy Latouche, Kelly Stewart, Raquel Cox, Sean Holleran, Barbara Tidd, Ethel Francis, Dr. Darrell White, Dr. Melanie Cam, Dr. Eric Goodman, Karen Brown, Megan Allman, Shannon Pipkin, Jackie Barber, Carnisha Ford, and Timothy Edwards. We'd also like to acknowledge our middle school principals, Courtney Mompoint, Natia Smith, Dr. Micah Smith, Janelle Spitz, Lisa Gatz-Daniel, Ebony Griffin, Jamitha Ruffin, and Dr. Sean Callender. And of course, our high school principals. Again, Courtney Bonpoint, Michelle Huffstetler, Dr. Erling Hunter, Bobby Surrey, Dr. Kelly Mason, Dr. Wendy Nichols, Dr. Darwin Mills, John Day, supervisor, and Chris Smith. To our dedicated principals, thank you for your tireless efforts and for the support, guidance, and encouragement that you provide to every student every school day. Please join me in giving them a round of applause for their hard work. I know they're watching. They all couldn't be present this evening, but we thank you for your hard work. Thank you, and again, congratulations. And again, we congratulate our principals, and we thank them for all that they do. At this time, the school board will take a brief break so that our students may leave their families. If you choose to do so, you're welcome to stay. And during this time, our viewing audience will have an opportunity to view this month's School Board Spotlight. We'll stand in recess for about 7 minutes. Thank you.
For years now, Books on Bikes Newport News has been personally delivering the gift of reading to students in their neighborhoods. With a generous donation of new trikes from Anthem Health Keepers, a total of 18 Newport News elementary schools now have a creative method of delivering free books to their students. An Achievable Dream Academy has made multiple rides throughout the Southeast community these past few months. A devoted team of educators handed out free books to current and older dreamers as they traveled between neighborhoods, encouraging lifelong readers. Heidenwood Elementary kicked off their Books on Bikes adventures with a community-focused event at the school in December. Family and community engagement specialist Lauren Hunter invited volunteers from neighboring Heidenwood Presbyterian Church and the Gamma Theta chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, who donated and handed out books during the weekend celebration. After the launch party, staff and students hopped on their bikes and rode to Heidenwood Apartments, where over 50 members of Hampton University's chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha greeted students and families. At Katherine Johnson Elementary, second grade teacher Lucy Wright organized rides into nearby neighborhoods through the fall and winter. At each stop, students selected books to add to their at-home reading collection, while educators had a wonderful opportunity to build meaningful relationships with parents and family members. And if Books on Bikes hasn't made it to your neighborhood yet, chances are your school principal has already made the rounds through the school hallways to personally deliver the gift of reading to students. Whether it's in neighborhoods or through the hallways, nobody delivers literacy better than Books on Bikes Newport News. Our entire community came together to bring joy to families during the holiday season. For several years now, Newport News Councilwoman Sharon Scott has hosted the annual One City Celebrations Holiday Food Drive at Denby Community Center to give hundreds of families and students a reason to celebrate the season. During the month of December, many schools in Newport News held food drives to donate to this event. At Jenkins Elementary, class representatives and elected student ambassadors started their mornings by collecting and recording donations from every classroom. Principal Kelly Stewart even helped students transport the outpouring of generosity with the school's Books on Bikes trike. With organizational help from staff sponsor Jessica Reynolds, Jenkins turned their food drive into a fun competition between hallway grades. Second and third grade pulled out to an early lead, but fourth and fifth grade ended up collecting the most canned goods, helping Jenkins donate an impressive 1,300 items to families across the city. On the first Monday of winter break, volunteers from schools, city departments, faith-based organizations, the military, and community partners came together to make the One City Celebrations Holiday Food Drive a success. Over 700 families drove through the receiving line, with volunteers packing their cars with bags of food and a holiday turkey. Books on Bikes Newport News handed out holiday treats and over 1,000 free books. Educators were more than happy to help kids select the perfect brand new book to enjoy reading over winter break. Through generous donations, 80 bikes were given out to deserving students at 6 elementary schools. Family and community engagement specialists worked with school principals to reward students who have good grades, excellent attendance, and exhibit positive citizenship skills. With vehicles filled with food, bikes, and books, hundreds of families had more to celebrate during the holiday season, thanks to the generosity of volunteers and organizers of the One City Celebrations Holiday Food Drive. Cross-country runners at Menchville High School continue to honor their teammates' enduring legacy by reaching out to the community through Leaves for Luke. Last year, Menchville's cross-country team offered to rake yards for donations to support their teammate Luke Gear, who was battling an aggressive form of cancer. Leaves for Luke was created to help the Gear family pay for Luke's medical care. Instead, Luke's last wish was to use the money to support his cross-country team, allowing Menchville to buy new uniforms and shirts with Luke's initials emblazoned on the sleeve. For 2 weekends last month, the second annual Leaves for Luke was organized by Menchville students to help beautify yards while raising funds for Luke's Legacy, a nonprofit organization created to honor Luke's memory and support youth athletics through community outreach. The money raised from Leaves for Luke went directly to Luke's Legacy to fund cancer research and support a scholarship fund, allowing Luke's incredible kindness to continue giving back to others. Every year in early December, students all around the globe participate in Computer Science Education Week. This annual event seeks to inspire students to learn about the many ways computer science impacts our daily lives, while advocating for equity in computer science education and exploring exciting career opportunities. Over the years, computer science, coding, and robotics have become more ingrained in the K-12 curriculum, as Newport News Public Schools seeks to build an educational experience shaped towards emerging careers and cutting-edge technologies that our students must learn to become competitive in a future global market. The NNPS Instructional STEM team shared resources and curriculum guides with educators to make Computer Science Education Week relevant and engaging. At General Stanford Elementary, Karen Canfield's third graders spent the whole week learning a new language through code literacy. Using web-based games, her students learned how to build code, move objects around a screen using algorithmic thinking, and sharpen their problem-solving skills. Each day, a new game offered different challenges for students to build 21st century learning skills. At Newsom Park Elementary, home of the Math, Science, and Technology Magnet Program, 5th graders in Shannon Schmidt's class used Ozobots to reinforce their math comprehension. By incorporating robot coding into a lesson about place value, students expanded their understanding of computer science while enjoying a math lesson that was fun and interactive. Meanwhile, first grade students at Newsom Park used Bbots to learn the basics of programming. Educators provided a holiday-themed mat as students worked in teams to use coding to estimate and solve challenges as they made sure Santa delivered gifts to the Christmas tree while avoiding the Grinch, who was trying to ruin the holiday. And at Gildersleeve Middle School, 8th grade tag English teacher Cindy Connell teamed up with instructional technology coach and Adobe creative educator Sarah Garrity to allow students to share their passions and hobbies through explainer videos. To complete their videos, students had to research a topic that interested them, write a script, create storyboards, shoot their footage, record voiceovers, and then edit the final productions together. The multifaceted project took a few weeks to complete, but allowed students to think creatively, solve problems as they arose, learn new technologies, and work independently to finish on deadline. Some of the students submitted their videos into a nationwide contest, the Art of Explainer Videos Challenge, hosted by Adobe and Khan Academy.
Well, welcome back. We hope that you enjoyed this month's School Board Spotlight. During our regular meetings, we provide time for the public to address the school board. These opportunities are scheduled in the early part of our agenda and also towards the end of our meeting. The school board recognizes that during the pandemic, some members of the public may not be able to join us in person. As advertised, citizens may submit comments via a web form, email, or voicemail up to 30 minutes prior to our meeting to be included in the official meeting record. For those of you joining us in person, the board considers this an opportunity to listen to your comments. Please understand that we will consider your concerns and respond to you at a later time. We ask that you comply with our 3-minute time limit. As you begin your comments, a green light will come on at the end of the dais over there. A yellow light signals that you have 30 seconds remaining, and a red light means that your time is up. As your name is called, we ask you to please come forward. I do have 15 cards so far, and which means we have a 30-minute time limit. So the more that you comply with our 3-minute time rule, the more speakers we'll be able to get into this session. So we really appreciate you respecting the time. All right. The first card I have is Mr. James Graves.
Good evening. Good evening. Chairman Brown, school board members, Dr. Parker. My name is James Graves. I am the NNEA Executive Board member, and we're here to make sure that we keep this mask mandate on. We believe in science. We believe in the medical officials telling us what's going on. And we want to make sure that our kids are safe. We're tired of these too, but it keeps us safe. I'm also a lead teacher at Denby High School. It keeps me safe. The mitigation in the classrooms is some classes are packed. My class is packed, but we have masks. And the medical professionals say, wear your mask, it'll keep you safe. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that we are with the mask mandate to keep it, and that whatever resources you have to do, whether law you have to find or whatever, we can continue to keep our kids safe. And we appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kim Hasty.
Good evening, Chairman Brown, Dr. Parker, and school board members. My name is Kim Anderson Hasty. I'm the president of the Newport News Education Association. I'm here today in an attempt to alleviate the fears of my members and the fears of the community in general. We are aware of the governor's executive order relating to masks. My colleague who just spoke, Mr. Graves, had a message this evening also. I just wonder, I have a question that remains, is what is Newport News Public Schools going to do in response to this executive order? We all knew it was coming. Masks in our schools is a local policy concerning according to the Constitution and codes of Virginia. So you as the school board will be determining the factors on whether mask wearing in our public schools will continue after January 24th, 2022. I just want to ensure that we are in compliance with the SB 1303, which is currently the law. First and foremost, in my mind, is whether the removal of the mandate will have an adverse effect on our students, faculty, and staff. I firmly believe it will. We have too many students, faculty, and staff members with medical risk factors to be cavalier on this issue. Many are willing and were willing to return because of the mask being in place? Secondly, how many loved ones of our students, faculty, and staff will be put in harm's way as a result of this shift in the disregard to the CDC guidance and the City of Newport News high transmission rates as a result of the Omicron variants? Finally, we want schools to stay open, but not at the expense of a student or a faculty member. I want to take this time to say thank you very much for listening to me, and just for you guys to really think about what needs to be happening going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Baer.
How y'all doing? I'd like to say thank you to the board first, the administrators, the teachers, and bus drivers, and everybody that does anything in the school. Because I was here January 19th, 2021, and I applaud y'all to try to get the kids back in school. And you did. Thank you. I mean, we know kids had a lot of mental health issues go on. We know there was a lot of drugs, drug addiction, drug overdose. We know kids had nothing to do but sit at home and no drive. But what I'm here for tonight is the lifting of the mask mandate. I'm going to tell you, I'm 100% for it. I think they should allow to have the freedoms we had. They should be allowed to come to school and not be frowned upon. I mean, I won't frown upon nobody that decides to wear the mask or decides to get vaccinated or decides not to. That's your opinion, that's your freedom. And I don't think you should take that away from anybody. And I think you should allow these kids to be kids and have the same freedoms we had. It doesn't hurt them. It doesn't affect them as much as everybody says it does. And we know that. I mean, I understand, the educators, they're worried about it. But, you have to do what you got to do for you, too. And they have to do what's best for them. They're young. They're going to deal with this the rest of their life. They keep hiding behind this, it ain't going to help them. It ain't going to help their immunity. So we need to stand up, have some backbone, and let's go. Let's do it. And I appreciate y'all listening to me tonight. Some people might not agree with what I say. I respect them. That's fine. Because I don't disrespect people. But we need to do what's best for the kids. Stop making it about, well, it could hurt somebody else, it could do this. Yeah, well, there's people that come into school and are vaccinated, and we know they walk around because they're vaccinated. They can still, even though they've been exposed, they can still be asymptomatic and still spread it. We know that, but they're still out in school. But I don't frown on them. I don't go off on them. So thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Y'all have a good night.
Next speaker is Jillian Belay.
Thank you. I'm here tonight as a parent of a Newport News Public School child. I'm concerned about the governor's recent executive order rescinding the mask mandate. And I urge the school board and the NNPS administration to continue, as you recently said, to prioritize the health and well-being of students, families, and staff by adhering to its current COVID-19 mitigation strategies, which are aligned with the CDC's guidance. The CDC recommends universal indoor masking by students, staff, and visitors in K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status, to reduce transmission of COVID. The Senate Bill 1303 also states in-person instruction must be offered, and any mitigation strategies provided by the by the Federal Centers of Disease and Control Prevention must be followed. This bill remains in effect through August 1st, 2022. As leaders of this district, you must make decisions for the collective safety of our students and employees and provide in-person instruction in a responsible way. Wearing masks is really the only mitigation strategy we have remaining, and I implore you to keep it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sarah Leone.
Good evening, Chairman Brown, members of the board, and Dr. Parker. I'm Sarah Leone. I'm the parent of 2 Newport News Public School students, both in elementary school, and I'm here to talk about keeping the mask mandate in Newport News Public Schools. I'm asking you to follow the CDC guidelines as spelled out in SB 1303. The CDC has released numerous papers supporting masking and the science of masking, including showing that in schools in which there was in-person learning and masks were not mandated, that outbreaks in the school were 3.5 times more likely to happen in the school, and also that in schools without mask requirements, there were larger increases in the pediatric COVID-19 cases as compared to schools with mask mandates. We are now at a peak of a new variant with seemingly higher transmissibility, and it'd be foolhardy to lift the mitigation standards that we have now, especially since schools cannot maintain the 6 feet social distancing that would be necessary to get rid of a mask. If masks are removed, I fear that a number of parents might be forced to choose between keeping their children in NNPS or removing them for their safety and that of their families. And there's also an increase of the odds of having to pivot to virtual learning models, which we know we don't want to do, if the staff gets sick or if a number of students get sick, if there's outbreaks in the schools. And I thank you, and I hope that you continue to back the science and the health of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jenny Chilton.
Hello, board, Dr. Parker. I'm Jenny Chilton. I'm a parent of a Hilton Elementary student and 2 younger children who will hopefully be proud members of Newport News Public Schools. I'm here to also advocate for keeping the mask mandate, not only for the safety of my own child. We all know that masks work better when everyone uses them. You're protecting yourself, but also yourself from other people. So we really need more people to do it in order for it to work effectively. And I was also just thinking in terms of the teachers. If teachers feel more safe and secure at school, then what's good for our teachers is what's really good for our kids. And so I want to support our teachers here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Connor Collins.
Good evening, Chairman Brown, members of the board, and Dr. Parker. My name is Connor Collins. I am a social studies teacher at Warwick High School here in Newport News, and I've spent my 8 years with Newport News as an educator. And I'm here to present to you a petition to have you please keep the mask mandate in place regardless of any laws or executive orders that have been passed by or signed by Governor Youngkin. I believe that there's a legal backing to this because of the Constitution of Virginia gives you the power to run the day-to-day operations of a school, which is why we have dress codes that could include a mask and why we have our current curriculum. I also think, because of SB 1303, that the fact that we are able to provide quality in-person instruction, which we know is the best after a year of interrupted learning, is only done by following CDC guidance, which includes wearing a mask universally if you cannot maintain 6 feet, which is not possible in our current learning environment. On top of the legal recourse, I think we have a moral recourse to protect our staff, our students, and our stakeholders. The community of Newport News will see a larger spread than we already are if we start to unmask our students and our staff. And so I ask that you please maintain this mask guidance with this petition that has over 150 stakeholders who have agreed to this position as well. And I hope that you keep in mind the greater good of Newport News, which you have done throughout this pandemic. I just ask that you continue that for us. Thank you.
Mr. Collins, you can pass your petition to the board clerk.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Alex Hazelwood.
Good evening, board. I'm Alex Hazelwood. My son is a student at Newport News Public Schools. Every day I drop him off, and I have to pull a mask over his face, and it's awful. Completely awful. I'm 100% against it, but unlike most of the people, I think it should be optional. If your mask protects you, wear it. If that doesn't work for you, then does it work? Why are we doing this? I've read study after study that proves these things don't work against this virus. It's spread through aerosol. I mean, you got a virus that these woven masks, it's 80 times smaller than the fabric between this mask. It makes no sense. I've asked the board on several occasions, please provide the justification. Show me some sort of scientific peer-reviewed study that says these masks work. And I don't have it yet because y'all don't have it. So why are we playing this game? I've read several other studies that show there are absolutely adverse effects to wearing a mask, especially 8 hours a day. I mean, you would think communication, these teachers think communication is just out your mouth. There's much more to communicating than speaking. And these kids need to learn that. They need to have the same experience as another individual said as I had as a kid. I would hate to remember my childhood being masked 8 hours a day. It's ridiculous. I've gone through this whole thing. I've been kicked out of this building before for not wearing a mask, and I'm still here. If you have health conditions and you're more comfortable wearing a mask, wear it. But don't force it on us. You're just admitting that your mask doesn't work when you force it on others. Let it be optional. Why has it not become optional? Does the board have any sort of policy where that could be an option? Teachers, if you need to wear a mask, wear a mask. But again, I'm over it. It's been 2 years, and this is not going to become the new normal because I'm going to keep fighting it. Every day, I'm going to keep emailing you. I'm going to keep calling you. I'll start calling more. But this is enough. Enough is enough. The science is not on the side of the people that want forced masks. Every study I've read through the CDC literally states that it could reduce transmission. Well, a chain link fence can stop a mosquito, one mosquito out of how many? That's all it takes, guys. We need to stay healthy. I agree. Work on your immune system, but these kids stuck behind these masks all day, it's enough's enough. I'm completely against it, and I would ask that y'all come up with some sort of option to make it optional. It's the only thing that makes any sense. If your mask works, let it be optional. Leave the rest of us alone. Thanks.
Next speaker is William Huberdeau.
Howdy. My students at Warwick High School call me Mr. H, and it's good to be in front of you. Thank you for hearing me out. I did this as a poem to encourage my creative writing students, in case any happen to be watching. It's untitled. Some people go to war, and some people write poetry, and all we're asking of our students is to wear a mask. Of all the sins poet Charles Baudelaire could count, he named boredom as the worst. But if one can't wear a mask that surgeons put on to stay safe, then that is worse than bored. That is boring. And it would be boring for the board to think that you wouldn't have our backs as teachers on this simple request to keep politics out of the classroom by maintaining the CDC recommended mask mandate. Please and thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Gotham Premkumar.
all today. Hopefully doing well. My name is Gautam Premkumar. I think you guys have actually heard from me before in the past. And I just wanted to step up here and reiterate with some of my colleagues. I am also a social studies teacher at Warwick. And I just wanted to reiterate my support of what my colleagues have been saying regarding the masks. And I applaud you guys on doing a fantastic job so far. In that spirit, I hope that we will keep with the CDC guidelines regarding masks and the mask mandates. What unfortunately you guys may not have known is right after we had the last time we spoke with us, I think the last time I saw you guys was in January of last year, I unfortunately came down with COVID. And I don't know if you can hear my hacking cough. That sounds like I'm dying a little bit. It's still unfortunately hitting me. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a young guy, even though sometimes I don't feel like it all the time. It still knocks me out a little bit. Some of my colleagues can tell you that they'll hear me coughing even now, even some almost 12 months after the fact. I was out for 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, and coming back to school was actually legitimately challenging. I still have to be a little careful when I try to exercise or do anything physical, just because if I do it too fast or too hard, it can really tear up my system. That being said, once again, I really wanted to reiterate how great it's been so far, keeping with the CDC mandates, and I really hope that you guys will continue in that spirit, not only to protect us teachers, but also other students and family members who may be a little bit more susceptible to this. If a 31-year-old at the time can be knocked out for a few weeks, I shudder to think what it can do to someone who's got a lot more sensitivity toward these kind of things. That's about it. I thank you guys for your time and your consideration, and I hope you guys have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mary Voss.
Hello, board. Mary Voss, NNPS graduate, parent, and teacher. I'm a member of VCOR, the Virginia Caucus of Rank and File Educators, which is a progressive pro-labor caucus of the VEA. First of all, some fellow teachers and staff asked me to share some feedback during public comments. They're concerned about getting their sick days due to COVID covered instead of having to burn through their own sick leave. They're concerned that a requirement to prove they got COVID at school in order to get days covered is unrealistic, given the lack of on-site testing and limited contact tracing. So it's difficult to prove if they got it at school or not. So that's a concern. Also, continued concerns about having to work past contract hours and having to work on weekends due to lack of planning time during the day. So I wanted to pass that along. On to the mask mandate. The Omicron variant has pushed Virginia's pediatric hospitalizations to record levels. State law SB 1303 directs Virginia schools to follow CDC guidance. So Youngkin's executive order ending the mask mandate for Virginia's public schools is out of order. This is why state law comes first. This is why so many Virginia public school systems such as Arlington, Montgomery, Fairfax, Loudoun, Henrico, Richmond, Alexandria, Prince William, Roanoke, Pulaski, Charlottesville, Albemarle, Fredericksburg, Matthews. There's more. That's just what I compiled by yesterday and this morning, but I know there's more out there. They've already announced that they're going to follow the state law instead and keep their mask mandates. Please fully reaffirm the NNPS mask mandate in order to protect students, staff, and teachers and their families from a potentially deadly disease. All of these other districts are assertively standing up for their students and staff. Please stand up for ours. Listening to parents means listening to all parents, not just the parents who voted for Youngkin. And of course, here in Newport News, the majority of our community voted against Youngkin. So please listen to the community you represent. I'm a parent too, and my 2 kids who attend NNPS have a right to be safe at school. They have a right to have a basic CDC mitigation strategy like masking in place in order to slow the transmission of a potentially deadly disease. Please protect our students and staff and families and act now to keep the mask mandate. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Andre Bartlett.
How you doing, board? My name is Andre Bartlett. I live in the Northern District. I have 2 kids that's in the NPS schools, as well as I'm an ex Gloucester High School football coach, as well as I represent the Benefit of the Doubt record label of B Corporation. I am fully aware. In fact, I wasn't fully sure that the first thing that would be done is a lifting of the mandate when we looked at Youngkin's first day accomplishments that we looked upon. But that's neither here nor there. With the lifting of the mandate of mask, the objective is not to find a cure because it's not inoperable, but it's the deterrent from actually what people like myself and my daughter go through who are actually allergic asthmatics. My daughter cannot get the actual shot because it allows her lungs to fill up with extra water. And also my younger daughter is also had been exposed at Debbie Early Child Care 3 times. So I'm looking for more of a deterrent. Now, as we have all been up here on the desk, we've all touched this desk multiple times without it being clean. So that is one area in which a pathogen is able to come without a mask being there. You guys' job is to understand the difference between a child being of age of being full responsibility and the law. The law states that we follow our CDC and the SBs and things like that, what everyone has touched upon. But your job is to understand at a certain age, which is K through 12, that they are not able to fully understand the realm of every small decision that they make. So with the mandate being lifted, it's not every 3 or 4 small decisions equal a major decision. We understand that. One of these things that happens if we lift this mandate, every child life is at risk. That goes from the smallest to the oldest, and that goes with the many other teachers as well. So lifting the mandate also puts everyone at risk, and I'm not for that. Have a blessed one.
Thank you. Next speaker is Zeb Johnston.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for everything you do. I'm Zeb Johnston. I was born in Riverside Hospital. I graduated from Menchville High School. I have 2 children. One of them is 6 years old, and she is in a Newport News public school. And I have a 4-year-old son who is not. He is not eligible to have a vaccine. My daughter is vaccinated. With a number of breakthrough cases with these vaccines, with COVID breaking through these vaccines and people getting infected anyway, I am quite concerned that my daughter could catch it, or even me and my wife, and bring it home to my unvaccinated son. I'm concerned not just for them wanting them to live, not concerned just with them possibly dying over this virus, but I'm also concerned about the long-term damage that a number of infected people have gotten. I want my children to be happy, healthy, and safe. I want our community to be happy and healthy and safe. And, I think that we should continue to follow the CDC guidelines. The CDC has relaxed those guidelines when appropriate, and we can expect them to do so in the future. So I'm not going to say for or against a mask. I'm going to say we should continue to follow the CDC guidelines and trust that they are appropriate. Thank you for your time. Thank you for hearing me. And I hope you will make the right decision.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lastacia Wilson.
Good evening. How are you guys? All right. My name is Lastacia. I am a mother of 3. I go by the short name of Stacy. But I'm also a volunteer at all 3 of my children's school, pretty much. I've been in the different organizations where they help with students at the schoolhouse, and my whole issues with the whole the mask mandate is I'm all for it, but I still don't like that they still have the kids in the school building just because there's so many of them getting sick. There's high cases, and then when the kids are sick, you have nowhere to take them for COVID tests, and you also don't have no areas to take them to the hospitals because they're all pretty much vacant, taken up. So what can you do as a parent if your child is infected with COVID and they've done the right thing, going to school with the masks on, and they have their COVID shot and they still get sick through the school system? So my issue as a parent is speaking for all parents that have the issues with the kids going to the school, having to wear the mask or don't have to wear the mask and still get COVID either way. So I did discuss with one of my oldest, because my oldest child, she's in high school at Warwick, and then I have a baby girl that is in Gildersleeve Elementary School, and my son is also at Hydenwood. Now, my son had to be taken out of school because of the fact that he was exposed to a child that had COVID, and he had his mask on. He had his first dose. This was his first time actually getting a shot, but he got exposed to a child that, came in contact with him. Now, me as a parent having to try to find places through the VDH for COVID testing, that's a problem, because everybody don't have supplies for COVID testings, as you can see. They claim on TV that they're putting in the supplies for all these places you can go at, but then when you go to them, they're not available. So what can you do? You have to quarantine for 5 days and still try to figure out if you can get your child tested for COVID or whichever like that. So I did speak to the school about maybe going back into getting the kids to hybrid classes where you can take the kids by their last names and have them going A and B days, or keep them back in virtual learning like they were doing and just have the teachers teaching from home, where you have really no cases of the kids getting sick at the school building. And you can give a break for the nurses, because the nurses are overwhelmed. They already have over 500 students there that are still catching COVID. And then there's like 12 to 1,400 kids there. So I'm just one of those parents that's like, figure something out, please. Because my child is a diabetic, which is my baby girl that goes to Gildersleeve. And then I have a young son that don't understand the real cases of this whole COVID. He just know that people are dying. So, that's my whole big issue with that. So I appreciate you guys doing all you can do for the school, even the little things you do for them. And I hope you guys have a blessed night. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Safrachum Harper.
Good evening, Dr. Parker, Mr. Brown. Thank you all so much for allowing me the pleasure of speaking today. I actually served in the United States Army. I went overseas to fight for freedom for other country. And now I'm here in the United States fighting for the freedom of our children. See, I have a quick note for you guys. I believe tonight we're simply playing politics to define a new Governor Youngkin executive order. Let's stop playing politics. The real victim and loser here are children. I truly believe parents should have the option of whether their children should be masked or not, just the same way with the vaccine. Every single one of you made that decision for yourself, whether you should be vaccinated or not vaccinated. And now the vaccine is available even for children as young as 5 years old. So if a parent really want their kids, if they feel like their kids are safe with the vaccine and being masked, let them do that. This is the freedom that we went around the world fighting for. Why we in this country still don't have that same freedom available to each person? We're a free country. We're not a third world country. This is the first country. There are people dying to come to this country. You know why? Because of the freedom. I was honored, privileged enough to be in this country because of the freedom. Every time I leave the United States and come back in here, I really literally want to kiss the ground because of the freedom in this country. So forced mask wearing have caused and will continue to cause real long-term psychological damage. Children, even us, just me looking at you, looking at me, you can see my facial expression. Our children deserve that. They deserve that. We all do. And the science is not reflecting on our personal. Honestly, I'm thinking this is political. That's what we have done, all of this for political issue. And we need to stop. We need to stop. Again, I truly believe the mask wearing should be left up to the parent. And if the parent decide for themselves whether they don't want their children to wear a mask, I don't believe we should be forcing those parents to put masks on their children. And not only that, again, thank you all so much. God bless you guys.
Thank you. Members of the board, at this time I've exceeded the 30-minute time period that's allotted for item 2.0, matters with the public. I have 4 additional cards in hand right now, which I would estimate would take roughly 15 minutes. If the board is amenable, we could extend the time period for 15 minutes. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we extend comment period for 15 minutes.
Second.
All right. Thank you. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Ealy.
4.
Mr. Harris.
4.
Mrs. Searles Law.
4.
Mrs. Amon. 4. Mr. Brown.
4.
And I am missing someone.
Me.
Dr.
Gary.
Best.
Yeah.
4.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Then we will continue, and our next speaker is Kishana Cottle.
Hello, my name is Kishana Cottle. I am in the 11th grade and I go to Denby High School. I am a student here in Newport News Public Schools. And as a student, I must say, I have a very large family, a lot of people who can be immunocompromised. And I must say, it can kind of be hard to go to school in general, but masks need to be here. All right? Yes, we need to go to school, but people like me need to go to school because we need that physical altercation when we're going with teachers. Virtual learning was very hard on a lot of kids, and a lot of GPAs have dropped with virtual learning. I kind of need to go to school to keep up my grades and to be able to focus and pay attention to my teachers. Can this be hard for a lot of kids to go to school? Yes. Yes, it is still a possibility you can get COVID, but there is much less of a possibility if you have your mask on. If we disinfect like how we're supposed to, and if we follow regulations, then yes, hopefully we can do better and this virus can die down. But it'll be kind of hard to do that if we have no masks on. A lot of parents are scared to let their kids go to school in general just because of this virus. So taking away masks, a lot less kids will go to school and be able to get their proper education. There's some kids out here with like 5 siblings at home that they got to take care of as well. How can you focus and pay attention to your Zoom class if you have siblings you got to take care of? I just want to be able to go to school and wear my mask. I can breathe perfectly fine wearing this mask. All right? I just want to stay safe. That's all I got to really say. I just want y'all to hear what a student has to say about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kevin Crowder.
Good evening, Mr. Brown, Dr. Parker, members of the board. I want to thank you all for your time and extending the period for us to speak. I also want to thank you for your leadership and guidance and your efforts in the education of our children. I'm here because last week I received an email regarding my son who's in the 9th grade with the Virtual Learning Academy, and the email was about, excuse me for a second, the verified writing credit in writing. And as I read the email, it appears that there's a requirement that the students actually have to be present in a school facility to participate in this verified writing. And for me and my family, I have 3 children within the school district. My oldest, of course, is at Virtual Learning Academy, and then I have 2 who are in the Virtual Virginia program. All 3 of them are doing very well in that program, and there's a reason why our family has decided to keep our children at home. Just as you have some parents advocating for their children to be mask free. We're advocating for our children to be at home where we can keep them as safe as possible from the spread of the disease. And so what I would like to present to the board is if there's a way where these assessments, whether it's the verified credit in writing, PALS, or other requirements for our students that require an in-person presence for that particular activity, that something be done to mitigate or another way be developed to achieve what you're trying to achieve without having to bring the students in the building. My children are immunocompromised with asthma and different things. And for us, this is the request that we would like to make, that this be taken into consideration. I thank you very much for your time and attention. You all have a great evening.
Thank you. Next speaker is Rhoda Young.
Good afternoon to each and every last one of you guys. My name is Rhoda Young Live. I'm Rhoda Young Live Communication, straight out of Norfolk, Virginia. I came over here today to make each and every last one of you guys look at the big picture. No one is speaking about the elephant in the room. No one is speaking about taking away the mask, how much confusion it's going to cause between each and every last student that enters that school building. You're going to have parents telling their child, I want your mask on. Do not take your mask off. Your grandmother is sick. You gonna have little Joseph over here to the left. Oh, you got your mask on. You got your mask on. You okay at work. We're going to start a whole bunch of confusion that we don't need inside Newport News Public Schools. We're going to have to come together, keep these masks on, for these kids won't start fighting and bullying each other at school. I'm Rhoda Young Live, the elephant in the room. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next speaker is Tom Amon.
Good evening. I guess I'm actually the real elephant in the room, as I'm the chairman of the Newport News Republican Party, and I'm actually speaking for a very large constituency of parents. I'm a parent. My child goes to Gildersleeve. He does very well. He works hard. But he is tired of wearing a mask based off of political ends that do not justify the means. Every one of us up here is smart enough to understand and read a spreadsheet. But just in case, I am happy to just give you a little fact. Senate Bill 1303 has been used against our children, against its intent the school year, to advance an agenda that is not matched by CDC regulations. CDC does not mandate masks. Governor Glenn Youngkin's executive order does not ban masks. It gives parents options, just like SB 1303 does. Not mandated masks. It gives school boards a roadmap to keep schools open. Well, this is an additional means to keep schools open. The parents that feel their child needs to wear a mask, let them wear the mask. The concern of bullying, that's crazy, that's stupid. If that's going to occur, the teacher should be able to handle that very quickly with, hey, your parents said you can do this, your parents want you to do that, that's how we're going to do it, sit down and be quiet. We need to have discipline back in the classroom, and that starts with empowering the teacher to do that. Secondly, the risk to children for COVID-19 has, we all know, is very minuscule. The cost of getting severely ill is very minuscule to a child. The teacher can wear a mask, can wear triple mask, can wear 6 masks. I don't care. The bottom line is we shouldn't make our children, we should give the parents the opportunity to choose for themselves and for their children. That is exactly what this vote and this election was about. Parents having authority over school boards that have gone too far and state education departments that have run wild. When we let our education department slip and school grades go down and we're still worried about whether or not somebody's wearing a mask, if you can see your breath through a mask, you didn't stop in COVID. Let's keep that in mind, all right? I thank every one of you for being here, I appreciate you listening. I do hope you will honor our new governor, just like you honored Northam, and honor the fact that he is now the duly elected official, and his department is going to send down guidelines, and I expect that you will follow those just like you followed Governor Northam's. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any additional cards?
No, sir.
Okay. Any additional cards? There being no additional cards, and we will conclude item 2, and then we will now move on to item 3 of our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Item 3 includes 3.01 minutes from the work session on December 14th, 2021, 3.02 minutes from the regular session meeting on December 14th, 2021, 3.03 financial reports including the revenue report for December 2021, the expense report for December 2021, child nutrition reports for December 2021, 3.04 the personnel report, 3.05 budget transfer. At this time, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Dr. Best. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Ely,
4.
Mr. Harris,
4.
Mrs. Searles Law,
4.
Mrs. Amon,
4.
Dr. Best, 4. Mr. Brown,
4.
motion carries 6-0.
All right. There is no action items this evening, so we will now move on to our reports section, which is section 5. 5.01 is our monthly school update, and Dr. Parker, I believe you do have some important information to share with us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a monthly school report. As you're aware, with the board, every month we provide a short update on the board with any updates regarding safety and or academics. This evening we'll start off with Mrs. Nancy Carlson, who's our supervisor of nursing, who will go over our most recent COVID protocols, and then we'll move into an educational update by Dr. Manglamont. So, Mrs. Carlson, are you with us this evening? She's joining us electronically. Okay, well, you'll kick us off, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start off with talking about the daily health screening with related to COVID protocols. All students, staff, and visitors are expected to perform the daily health screening every morning before reporting to work or school. Individuals who show any COVID-19 symptoms should stay home for 5 days after their symptom onset. This is regardless of vaccination status. If a student exhibits symptoms while at school, they will be taken to the COVID cares room or COVID isolation room, where they will wait for a parent to come and pick them up. We do have paperwork that we send home with the parents explaining quarantine and isolation. It makes it a little bit easier for everyone when we hand that to a parent. We also are participating in the Vista Bionex Now at-home test kits. Right now we are out. I placed an order on January 11th. Of course, as everyone knows, there is a supply issue with the home testing kits, and as soon as they are available, they will ship some more to us, and we will get those distributed back out to schools. But they went very quickly when we had them. We had 1,500, and again, we've distributed all of those to the schools, and they were given to students and staff. With the COVID test kits, if a student or a staff member tests positive, they need to stay home for 5 days and isolate. They may return on day 6 if their symptoms have improved and if they are no longer running a temperature without the use of medications for 24 hours. For days 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all students and staff members with the new guidance from the CDC would be expected to wear a well-fitted mask while they are in the building. If the test is negative, the student or staff member may return to school when their symptoms have improved and again when they are fever-free. Next slide, please. Along with talking about the daily health screenings, anyone who is up to date on their COVID-19 vaccine or has had COVID-19 within the last 90 days, if they were identified as a close contact, they would not need to quarantine. Those are the only two exceptions that make you exempt from quarantining. That's what this next statement says also. They would not have to stay home for the quarantine for 5 days, like I said. However, if someone has not been up to date on their COVID-19 vaccine, or they have not had COVID-19 in the last 90 days, they would need to stay home and quarantine for 5 days if identified as a close contact. Again, they can return on day 6 if they have not developed any symptoms. And again, according to the updated guidance from CDC and from the Virginia Department of Health, all people, children and adults, would need to return for days 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, wearing a well-fitted mask. Next slide, please. And as was addressed earlier, the mask use for Newport News Public Schools will remain in effect until this Friday, was my understanding through Dr. Parker, and then further information will be presented. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. No questions at this time.
So, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. So,
The next slide, Dr. Parker is going to present.
thank you, ma'am. Next slide. So there were questions regarding, as part of our mitigation strategies, when a school, when a classroom,
One moment, please,
or
Dr.
school.
Parker. No, we don't take questions from the audience at this time. Right at this time now, during Section 5.0, this is a report to the board and a chance for the board to ask questions of the superintendent and his staff, and the superintendent to make a presentation.
Okay, and you're welcome to leave that question with our board clerk. I'll be happy to respond to you if you have a question that I can answer for you. So there have been questions as far as what would it take to close a classroom, a school, or the school division during a COVID outbreak. And this chart is a chart that really focuses on 3 areas: transmission within the school, which is considered community spread; high levels of student absenteeism that will warrant closure of a school for a temporary period; and or high absences of staff, which would render the school inoperable as far as the normal instructional day. We've provided the community with this explanation, and we continue to monitor on a day-to-day basis, Department of School Leadership working with Mrs. Carlson's nurses, any COVID reported cases, and the impact that it would have on that school on that school facility. We have seen a high uptick in COVID reported cases due to the winter break, and we're looking this week to see whether we continue a trend 2 weeks out from winter break. What the anticipation is that we'll see our numbers go down. However, if that is the case, that we continue to see either one school or cases continue to persist at a school site or across the division, the next step would be to temporarily close down either a classroom, school, or schools based on COVID on the COVID trends that we see taking place. At this point, we've been able to cover all of our classes. We have been able to maintain full operation of our school facilities. We continue to look at that data on a daily basis, and we continue to work with our school principals to address any operational issues that are related to COVID exposures. And our community transmission piece still remains relatively low. So that is where we are right now. The winter break, a lot of folks came back and had positive tests. We're 2 weeks out. As we heard from the mitigation strategies, they can quarantine for a set number of days, come back with a well-fitted mask. We anticipated new reported cases to start to reduce based on that factor. However, I can't tell the future. What I can say is that this right here will lead to classrooms or school closures if we continue to see a trend uptick in COVID exposures over time. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to provide that information and reiterate that what it would take to close a classroom, school, or schools based on our set criteria that we've been following up to this point.
Thank you, Dr. Parker.
And I'll turn it over to Dr. Manglemar with an academic update. We are in assessment season, so she is here to just provide some community information, and we will also be reiterating this information with our broader community as far as what tests our students are taking, what these tests actually mean. So Dr. Manglemar will provide a quick overview.
Good evening, Chairman Brown, Vice Chair of Soares Law, Dr. Parker, members of the board. Tonight, I'm going to present to you and to our community at home listening our assessment window for the teaching and learning mid-year check-in. Before I begin, though, I do want to preface with two things. The first one is that we broke down all of our assessments into 3 categories. The first one being our content assessment, which is really testing our students' mastery of the content, knowledge, and skills established by the Virginia Department of Education, our standards of learning, and of course our NNPS curriculum. The second is our diagnostic assessments, which help us measure our student growth in both reading and mathematics, and it allows our teachers to formulate a better intervention and remediation plan for students who are falling behind. And lastly, we have specialty tests. I also want to clarify for our community at home that's watching, I'm about to present a lot of assessments. And sometimes we say all we do are assessing our students. So I just want everyone at home to rest assured that we ensure by the large testing window that we are not testing our students multiple times throughout a day. Okay. So looking ahead, we can see that we have our content assessments. You can see we have a fall non-writing end of course assessment that is given for all high school students starting in 9th grade through 12th grade, and that window is January 5th through January 21st. We are giving grades 3 through 8 benchmarks, our content benchmarks, and those are given January 18th through the 26th. We are also giving midterm and final examinations next week to our high school students, January 24th and January 26th. And we also have pre-testing for our CTE industry certifications on January 31st and February 4th. As we move forward, we see our diagnostic assessments that are giving all of our students in grades K through grades 9. We have PALS testing, which is our reading testing, diagnostic testing for our students in pre-K through grades 2. We're giving those in January 10th through January 26th. We are giving a mathematics inventory to all of our students in grades 2 through 8, and you can see those testing windows in front of you. We have January 19th through the 21st for our youngest learners, and 6 through 8, January 31st and February 11th. We also have the reading inventory going on as well, with which we assess our students in grades 3 through 8. 3 through 5 is January 20th and January 26th. And our grades 6 through 8 is January 31st and February 11th. Lastly, we give also another assessment called No Red Ink, which is to assess our students' writing abilities. And those are in grades 6, 7th, and 9 through 12. And that is given January 11th through February 11th. We also have some specialized testing going on. As you can see, we have the WIDA Access for English language learners. That goes on from January 18th through March 25th, and that is for all students in grades K through 12. We have gifted testing going on right now with a very large testing window. We assess all students in grades K through grades 8, and that is February 1st through March 24th. And lastly, for all parents listening at home and helping prep your students, on SAT, we have our SAT testing day for all of Newport News Public Schools. All juniors will receive that test on March 23rd. So what do we do with all this data? So once it's all given, we analyze and we report out on the data. The data is immediately available to our schools, our teachers, and our administrators right after the testing because it's all done online. We also, all parents will receive written notification based on their child's performance on the diagnostic assessments that we are giving this month. And lastly, we do a huge division analysis and reporting after all the assessments are given. And our team will disaggregate it, they'll analyze it, and they'll give us a report. And that is on February 25th. We are meeting as a school leadership and a teaching and learning team. And we are going to look at the data, we're going to look at our trends, and we're going to make recommendations on instructional resources, supports, and interventions that we can recommend to all of our schools in Newport News. So this concludes my assessment update. May I answer any questions for you?
I had a question for Dr.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Best.
Okay, I had a question for Dr. Parker.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, I forgot it. Dr. Parker, thank you for the information regarding the thresholds for schools closing. One of the concerns or that I have heard a couple of times is that at certain schools, at certain times, there are many individuals, because of a staff shortage, being held in places like the cafeteria. Can you kind of address that? I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just sharing with you. I've heard it a couple of times, and can you kind of address that?
Is this secondary or elementary?
This was both. It was actually both, and it was because of staff shortage.
Okay. Without detail, I can't speak to specific decisions made at a certain site. I know we've used our division staff to go in and substitute. We've combined classes as best possible, using our teachers and/or teacher assistants to support schools, in particular when they have days where they may have a teacher out. So we've used a variety of means. If the cafeteria is used, I would say it's probably a combined class situation where the kids can easily socially distance. But I would need a little bit more specificity as far as what specific school and day that it was used under what circumstances. But we've tried. We're working right now on Band-Aids and bubble gum, really to try to keep instruction going on days where we may have high numbers out. Mondays and Fridays are always a challenge. That was a challenge before COVID. So if you throw in some instances where you have quarantining taking place and it's a Monday or a Friday, you have to be pretty creative. But we do communicate with our principals every day and ask them if they have any operational issues that would impact their instructional day the following day. Also, we maintain on a spreadsheet the number of staff reported cases, student reported cases, and to determine whether we have any ticking up trends that would mean that we need to give that building a rest or shut down any classrooms. So I probably will need a specifics as far as which school you're referring to, and I would have to look into that person.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Parker.
I did have a question, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification. There was a gentleman who spoke a minute ago about a virtual student taking and it was an SOL test because it was a writing test. Could you speak specifically as far as what the requirements are for that?
Absolutely. All state testing is mandated by the Virginia Department of Education to be in person, but we are doing our best to establish 6 feet distance, mitigation strategy, and cleaning in between. I'm personally going to reach out to Mr. Chris Smith from the Virtual Learning Academy to ensure that we are making sure that our virtual students are safe when they come in for testing. Benchmark testing has been decided, though, that can be given virtually. So.
Good.
And Dr. Manglema, that's fairly, in terms of history, that's how it's always, essentially, that's a state requirement, it's how it's always been. You have to take the test in person because you have to be monitored.
Yes, absolutely.
During testing, yeah. Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Manglema.
Thank you.
And now I believe we are on to item 5.02, which is a presentation from WHRO.
I won't take this personally.
And Bert, I thought they were going to leave the microphones up there so they can hear all the good things going on with WHRO, but we thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Chairman Brown, Dr. Parker, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. My name is Bert Schmidt. I'm the president and CEO at WHRO, and with me is my vice president for education, Elmer Seward. So if you have the really hard questions, he's here to take care of you. Hopefully, oh, good, that works. So you all have hard copies of the impact statement that we provide you each and every year. I'm not going to go through those details today, but if you want to go through the specifics of how the division uses the services we provide. All those details are within the impact statement. But I come to you, for those of you who may be new and not understand why I'm here, is because you're one of the 21 school divisions that literally own the license to WHRO. We're the only only media company in the entire country owned by a collaboration of school divisions. We all get together on a regular basis and we work things out that 21 school divisions can come together and save taxpayers money and improve the school offerings for every division in the region. And so in fact, we're meeting in 2 weeks. And I want to especially thank Dr. Parker. He is chairing this group of 21 school superintendents. So Dr. Parker, thank you for your leadership in doing that. So the services that we provide, and all the services I'm going to talk about have been requested by the schools. So it's, we're not educators, but we work with the division. So first, eMedia VA, we've offered this service for coming up on 10 years now. It is a digital repository of digital learning objects. It could be a video, an audio, game, lesson plan, app, picture, really anything you can digitize. We collect them from national sources like the Smithsonian, National Archives, Library of Congress, but probably more importantly from local Virginia organizations that have great stuff for kids. But teachers don't want to go everywhere on the web. They want to go to one place, and we correlate every learning object to the Virginia Standards of Learning. So a teacher is teaching a certain level, a lesson, they can just do a quick search within eMedia VA. Maybe they want to show a video, an audio, they want to do a game, they put the SOL, say they want a game, grade level, and it all pops up very easily for them. It is free to every public, private, and homeschooler in Virginia. We've had a contract with the Department of Education for almost 10 years now. We also provide a lot of professional education to your teachers. You can see a list of some of the courses that we've offered this past year, including social and emotional learning, blended learning strategies, etc. Many of you know we provide you with online courses. We have built for you now 28, mostly high school, a few middle school, but mostly high school courses. Think of us as the manufacturer. We make the course and we give them to you to use however you want within your learning management system. The courses are intended to be used with teachers, but they can be done in lots of ways. It can be fully online, it can be flipped, blended, whatever your strategy is, but it allows you to take all these courses and integrate those into your education strategy. So again, we build them and we give them to you, so it's your strategy and you use them however you like. And the Governor's Office worked with WHRO, a Commission on African American History, as well as the Department of Education, and we produced the state's first African American History course last year. A full year ago, it was in beta mode for 16 divisions this year that we're in. Now every division in the state can now offer African American History as an elective. That's up, of course, to the division as well. So when COVID hit back in March of 2020, I had superintendents reaching out to me and saying, look, we need help. We've got to figure out how kids who are going to be home, who don't like the online learning thing, especially young kids, where online learning doesn't work as well. How can we address this issue? And then the state contacted us. Dr. Lane contacted me and said, look, we talk about all this online learning, but lots of kids don't even have access to the internet, at least high quality internet that you need to do virtual learning. How can you help? So we created Virginia TV Classroom. We worked with about 30 or so teachers throughout the region. They, in effect, did Zoom lessons, sent them to us. We did our TV magic, and for 9 months, we were airing from K through 7, 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, statewide. Every Virginia public TV station carried Virginia TV Classroom. So for 9 months, we had lessons where you would have been that day in the class, available on TV for kids that either couldn't get on the internet or kids that just need to hear from a teacher, especially our youngest ones. So we did that for 9 months until schools finally had figured out their own local solutions. Here's a sampling.
Attention parents and students, Virginia TV Classroom is making it easy again for you to learn in your living room. We're back for season 2. Students kindergarten to 7th grade tune in weekdays to see teacher-led and SOL-aligned instruction. It's Virginia's teachers teaching on TV. Watch Virginia TV Classroom and learn more.
Beginning September 14th at 11 on WHRO.
Of course, everybody has access to public television in the state, so regardless of your internet access or capabilities, you did have access for those 9 months to Virginia TV Classroom. We have been operating the Virtual Virginia since its beginning over 15 years ago. Today, now, or last year, we were operating the technical side of the Virtual Virginia. You're all familiar with that by now, so we were handling help desk, websites, things like that. Also, we love to celebrate smart kids. You know, the football and basketball players get a lot of, congratulations, but we love to celebrate those smart kids. And so we have 3 contests for our children. We have the PBS Kids Writers Contest, where kids K through 5, they write and illustrate stories, they send them in, we have a panel of judges, and then those winners get announced, we have a whole big celebration, and we actually take those winners and we put them on TV reading of their stories. The Great Computer Challenge, some of you may be young enough that you participated in the Great Computer Challenge. It's been going on, what will be now this year, the 37th year, where teams of students, K through 12, come together and they compete in various software programs and languages. It's a weekend over ODU, and you get to celebrate your smart students around computers. And finally, the Regional Spelling Bee. This is for middle school students, 6th through 8th grade. You have your local bee at your middle schools, then you send your champs to our regional bee, which will be in March this year.
We're still looking at whether it's going to be 1 or 2 days. First one should be, well, the spelling bee, yes.
Spelling bee, March.
It's back on the
Sorry. So the spelling bee, the reason I'm questioning because it's going to be in person. We've now switched it back to virtual. Unfortunate, but we're looking at a March date. So your schools still have time to get their champions in for this year's spelling bee. The winner of our regional bee goes to the national spelling bee, and we've seen great improvement in children's ability to spell ever since we started the spelling bee 15 years ago. We love to focus on this program called American Graduate. For a number of years, we were focused on improving the graduation rate, of course, with all your help and many others. We saw when we first started this program, the graduation rate was around 80%, and now it's at 90%, all thanks to the great work that you guys are doing. So we've shifted the focus to more on non-traditional jobs for women in particular. There's a lot of stereotypes about what a woman can do in the workplace, and we try to break those stereotypes. Here's a sample.
Hey ladies, check out my cool t-shirt. And check out Pure Red Swan. I am strong. You got that right. I think on my feet. We love a challenge. I have mad skills. Yeah. I work like a girl. Are you ready for this?
We also provide lots of services for our youngest children. We have 3 vans that go out into the community now, whether it's to elementary or schools or even preschool or daycare providers. We have a literacy van, of course, focuses on literacy and first book programs. We have a STEM van, focused obviously on STEM, and then we just have our newest van that has just hit the road, our environmental science van. So just call us up and we'll get our vans. So of course, your owners, none of this costs you anything. And our folks will be out to work with your youngest kids in integrating these lessons into the classroom. We have lots of other programs for our youngest children. I mentioned the vans. We have reading camps, coding camps. Blows me away what kids learn coding now. I sat down with a kindergartner and that kid was schooling me on coding. We have all sorts of reading buddy camps, anytime is learning time training. So lots of services for pre-K or early learners, probably K through 3. Have your teachers just contact WHRO if they want to have our folks come and work with you. And finally, you care about your return on the investment. When you have a chance, in your hard copy of the return on investment, you have a page 14 that summarizes the amount of money you invest, which last year was $72,000, and you received in that year $872,000 in savings and value. That's a 12-to-1 return on your investment. Hope that satisfies you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, well, thank you for that great presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and now to the featured act, the unveiling of our school calendar. Ms. Brooks, would you please come forward and give us this eagerly anticipated school calendar?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chairman, members of the school board, and Dr. Parker. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to share highlights from the division-wide calendar that we are proposing for next school year. Now, when this board approved the 2021 through 2022 school calendar for this year last April, you requested that we consider a pre-Labor Day calendar for next school year, which is what I will be sharing with you this evening. And as you've probably noticed, this is earlier than our usual calendar presentation in February, because our goal is to make this information available to our families and staff as early as possible. But before I review the calendar itself, and for the sake of our viewing audience, I'd like to speak briefly about the team that developed the calendar, the process we used, and the factors we considered in planning the calendar proposal that is before you this evening. Now, the calendar draft is an outgrowth of the work of the calendar committee that consists of elementary and secondary teachers, administrators, parents, representatives from our instructional areas, and our support services who provided valuable input on next year's draft and will continue to work over the next several weeks to revise the calendar as needed. Now, this is our calendar planning process. We began with meetings with our 6 school divisions on the peninsula last fall. We incorporated the recommendations along with input that we received from our own calendar committee to develop the draft that is before you this evening. Now, we will post that draft on the school division's webpage for public feedback, and we'll also be reaching out to the PTA and to our employee, student, and community advisory groups for their input. We will continue to solicit feedback from the community and work with the Peninsula Calendar Committee through February, when the calendar would come before the school board for approval. Now, there are several factors that we considered in planning the calendar. First and foremost is our instructional program. So we developed a calendar that works to support our work in preparing students to be college, career, and citizen ready when they graduate. So with that as our guide, we determined our marking periods, our teacher work days, our family conference times, our staff development days, and our winter and spring breaks, as well as our holiday observances. Then we based the calendar on the state requirement of a minimum of 990 instructional hours per year, which we will exceed, especially given that up to 10 inclement weather days can now be counted as unscheduled virtual learning days, since we provide a device for every student. Now, once we have our student days in place, we add teacher work days and opportunities for professional development for up to 200 days as required by the state code. And lastly, we work within a 245-day contract or appointment period for our 12-month employees. Now, this current school year was the first time in over a decade that Peninsula school divisions opened with different start dates. The same will hold true for next school year, when approximately 4 school divisions will open before Labor Day and possibly on different days. And next year, our winter breaks will be slightly different by just a few days, and I'll speak more about that later in my presentation. However, in terms of spring break, all 6 school divisions on the peninsula will continue to observe it as the first Monday through Friday in April. So as we look to next school year, we are proposing to begin school on Monday, August 29th, which is the week prior to Labor Day. Now, we base that start date on responses from our past family and staff surveys, and are working with the 3 school divisions that open prior to Labor Day this current school year. And they are York County, Williamsburg, James City County, and Gloucester. Now, under state law, school divisions that open prior to Labor Day must also close schools on the Friday before the holiday weekend, so our calendar proposal reflects that as well. Now, we see several benefits in opening a week earlier. It will allow schools to more quickly address gaps in student learning that have occurred due to the pandemic and quarantine protocols that have continued through this current school year. It also will allow us to provide students with targeted instruction that first week by focusing on remediation and intervention strategies as needed. The earlier start will allow for increased instructional time for students preparing for high-stakes tests such as advanced placement and international baccalaureate program tests that are conducted in the spring. And the earlier start will also provide opportunities for professional development for our staff throughout the year, with the flexibility to provide additional supports for students and teachers. Now, in our past calendar surveys, students expressed the benefit of being able to enter the summer job market sooner, since they are often competing with college students who typically complete their coursework in May. And we also see the earlier start to the school year as an opportunity to begin this school division's robust summer learning program for students sooner in June, so that we may continue the instructional momentum from the school year. So now I would like to share just a few highlights from the calendar that we're proposing for next year. Now, the pre-Labor Day start will shift teacher and student returns by approximately 1 week, with new teachers reporting on Monday, August 8th, and returning teacher and teacher assistants reporting on Tuesday, August 16th. And as mentioned earlier, the first day for students will be Monday, August 29th. Now in October, the calendar changes to former half days for students into full instructional days for greater continuity in learning. Schools will then be closed for students on October 21st, which will be a half day for teacher professional development in the morning and parent conference time in the afternoon. And Wednesday, December 14th, will be a half-day dismissal for students with independent learning for students in the afternoon, while teachers are participating in professional development. And again, next year, we will have a 2-week winter break, which will be different from some of our neighboring school divisions, with Newport News having 2 days longer at the beginning of the break. However, we will return on Monday, January 2nd, which is a federal holiday, while some Peninsula school divisions will most likely return on Tuesday, January 3rd. Now, as we enter 2023, Thursday, January 26th is the end of the first semester and will continue to be a teacher and support staff workday. Friday, January 27th will continue to be a full professional development day for teachers, which is consistent with the other school divisions on the peninsula. In February, 2 half days for the winter reset during the first week of February this current school year will be full days for students next year to allow more time for targeted instruction as students begin their second semester. However, if the winter reset on February 3rd and 4th of this year works well and results in positive academics outcomes for students, we may recommend it for next year when the calendar comes before you at your February meeting. And in rounding out the month of February, on President's Day, which is February 20th, schools will be closed with offices open. And in March, the calendar changes 2 former half days for students into 2 full instructional days for greater continuity in learning, which is similar to what we did in October. Schools will then be closed for students on March 10th, which will be a half day for teacher professional development in the morning and parent conference time in the afternoon. And in closing out the month, the half day on March 31st will be the teacher workday for the end of the 3rd marking period. Now, in closing out the year, the calendar schedules tentative graduation ceremony dates for Saturday and Sunday, June 3rd and 4th, and it also designates Friday, June 9th as the last day for students. When we surveyed families and staff in the past, they expressed a greater willingness to support a pre-Labor Day start if it meant an earlier end to the school year. So the calendar committee, really worked hard to make that happen. And lastly, we added Juneteenth as a holiday for our 12-month employees. Excuse me. So in closing, I'd like to share just a few key points regarding the proposed calendar for next school year. First, schools will open before the Labor Day holiday on Monday, August 29th. Second, in October and March, the proposed calendar changes 2 half-days to full instructional days for students for a greater continuity in learning, while allowing the same amount of time for teacher professional development and planning. Third, while the number of student days is reduced for next year, the number of instructional hours will still exceed the 990 instructional hours that are required by the state. And fourth, the draft calendar ends school a week early on Friday, June 9th. Now, this is a visual representation of the 2022-23 calendar. It includes our marking period dates in the box in the lower left-hand corner, and to the right of it are the religious observances that occur during the school week, as well as our early dismissals, our staff development days, and then our holiday observances. So in terms of next steps, as we've done in the past, we will post the draft calendar on the school division's webpage this week with a link for viewers to ask questions or to provide input. We will also reach out to the PTA and to our employee, student, and community advisory groups for their feedback. And in keeping with our process, we will continue to work with the Peninsula Calendar Committee through February to revise our calendar as needed. And then the calendar draft will come before you for action at your February 15th meeting. We will then publicize the board-approved calendar through an extensive public awareness campaign with heightened attention given to our pre-Labor Day start. So this concludes my report this evening. I will be happy to answer your questions or to respond or to note your suggestions. So thank you very much. And thank you.
All right, questions? All right, no questions tonight. Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
Great, thank you.
Next on our agenda is 5.04, the attendance report, 5.05, the membership report, 5.06, construction report. Board members, you've received copies of these reports in your packets. Are there any questions at this time? All right, there hearing none, then we'll move on to item 5.07, which is comments by the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my report tonight is fairly brief. We have some upcoming events that I would like to put out into the public domain and to acknowledge some upcoming things going on. We have a lot of exciting things happening in Newport News, and we want to make sure that our students and families are taken care of, are participating. I would say that at our last board meeting, we had several students come and speak about the dress code. Their concerns with the equity piece of that. I would like the board to know that we have met with our fearless leader over here, Ms. Patterson, led our student advisory group meeting, and we had an opportunity to discuss dress code and come to some level of understanding of what those students' concerns were, and we'll be happy to provide some report to the board as far as the findings or the opinions of the students who participated in that discussion. So I do still rely on our student advisory to make some informed decisions regarding any recommended policies. And I appreciate hearing students come to our school board meetings and share their opinions like the young lady tonight. It always means it's great we're creating advocates at a very young age, and I think that'll serve them well as they move into their adult life. So we always want to applaud seeing our students come and speak. With that being said, a few upcoming events. We'll start with preschool registration, which will begin in February. Newport News Public Schools preschool program provides eligible 4-year-olds a free, high-quality early childhood experience. We offer a full-day program with certified teachers and instructional assistants, and all preschool students receive an iPad for at-home and in-school use as part of our blended learning model. Our program is designed to give children opportunities to develop social and emotional skills and build a strong foundation for learning on their journey to becoming college, career, and citizen ready. So parents and guardians may apply from home or any Newport News Public School beginning in February. So we look forward to those preschool registrations. Our school division is considering the adoption of a new elementary English textbooks, and we will be providing an opportunity for parents, students, and staff to review the textbooks that are being under consideration. As you're aware, our textbook adoption process is a community-based process where those books are reviewed before any final selections, and we do value the feedback that we receive from parents, students, and staff regarding any textbook adoptions. Individuals may review the textbooks and offer a comment on January 20th through February 25th, Monday through Friday between 8 and 4 p.m. at the Newport News Administration Building. We'll also have other ways that we'll get those books in front of staff for feedback as well. I'd like to remind our families and students that Thursday, January 27th is a teacher work day, and Friday, January 28th is a staff development day. Students do not report to school on those days. We hope that our students enjoy this time off and return prepared for their second semester. And I know our students will enjoy that. Earlier this evening, there was some mention of testing kits, and I just want to make sure everyone is aware that we are working collaboratively with the City of Newport News to bring a testing center to Newport News. And that testing center will be opening in the coming weeks, which will provide a location where families can go for testing. Also, there is a link that's available. I will ask my media and communication team to make sure we have it on our website where you may communicate with the federal government to get 4 tests per household. And that link is open today because I know I just ordered 4. So it's available, and we'll make sure that's available on the school division's website for any parents or interested parties who would like to access testing kits. So that concludes my comments for tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. And that now brings us to item 6, which is our second audience with members of the public. And so if there are any cards, it's an opportunity for you to come back up and speak again, if you like. And we'll ask the Madam Clerk, are there any cards at this time?
No, sir.
Okay. There being no cards, I'm going to mention our colleague, Mr. Hunter, had a medical emergency and could not be with us this evening. He's recovering well, and we appreciate all of the prayers and well wishes that he has received. And we know that we are going to see him here on the dais with us again, and so I didn't want to let the night go by without mentioning him, and that is definitely an excused absence here tonight with his medical emergency, and we look forward to seeing him here again. In honor of Mr. Hunter, he would want the meeting to get over with in less than 2 hours, so then we are adjourned.